Hey guys, it's me. So, I just wanted to make a little video today as like a little story time. So, the story that I am going to be telling y'all is the story of my son's father. So, my son is going to be 2 here in December, and my son's father is not in his life, makes no attempts. And I know a lot of people sit here and say, like, oh, but you don't give him a chance, or you're preventing him from seeing his child, all these negative things that in some cases, could be very well true. But in my case personally, my son's father has made no attempts. He does not text us, he does not call me, he does not ask how he is doing, he doesn't ask to see him. He literally makes no attempts, and I mean like 0 attempts to see his son. Like I said, my son is about to be 2, and in a year and a half, he's seen him 4 times, and 3 of which were when he was new, baby. The very first time he came, it was when he was a couple days old, and my son was born 2 weeks before Christmas, and so, there's that. So, my son comes over, and I had to have a C-section because my son was huge. My son was 8 pounds, 14 ounces, and I stopped laboring. And so he was kind of like just stuck. And so they were like, well, he needs to come out. It's been way too long. So I had to have a C-section. So obviously I'm still recovering at the time. And I was like, I had your kid. Do you want to come see us? And this is in the hospital. Nothing. So now we're home, and I again was like, do you want to see your kid? Like, I just had your kid. Like, do you want to see him? And he had to get a ride, and he came. He was holding my son and watching TV. Didn't look at him, didn't acknowledge him, just held my son. And after 5 minutes, I was like, you can leave. And he left. He didn't say nothing. That was it. The second and third time, I drove my son to his father's, and we were there for maybe 30 minutes. And then I left. Nothing really to say with those 2 times. And then the 4th time, my son was around 15 to maybe 18 months. I'm not too sure, maybe around 15 months. I again reached out and was like, yo, your son's like a year and a half. Like, do you want a relationship with your son? Like, do you want to see your kid? And so we met up at this indoor play gym thing. And he was, of course, late, which there's no surprise there because I figured as much. It was very awkward. He like tried to interact, but the first thing that he wanted to do was talk about child support. So, talking about child support, I don't get very much. So the backstory on my son's father is I met him in March of 2016. The last week in February, beginning month of March of 2016. And I had just gotten out of a relationship back in October with a man that I was with for a year and a half. And we were living together, all was good. Like, we were even talking about, like, starting a family. We were getting serious. Like, I actually had a promise ring. It was gorgeous. Like, I loved this man. Like, fuck, I loved him. and I found out he cheated. The kicker is we were 20, 21. I had just turned 21 that October. We were already broken up. He kicked me out. And I found out that he was cheating on me with a woman 15 years older than us. Let that sink in. We were 20. She's 15 years older than us. She has 2 kids. One, which is maybe 5 years, 6 years younger than us. And a young boy who at the time was in maybe kindergarten, 1st grade. He left me for her. So I was still like dealing with that. And I had a boyfriend shortly after that. I dated a man from November to January. And then we just casually broke it off. Like, it wasn't working, whatever. And I started hitting up some old guy friends and was just, living my life. Like, I was 21. I was starting to, like, go out and actually have a good time. And then I met my son's father. So it was in March, and at that time, I was working at a gas station. I was working at a Super America, and I'd been working there for about a year and a half and loved it. And he had come in, and I'm going to be very honest, this is what the video is about. He's not the most, handsome by any means, but he lived close. I was like, you live where my ex lives, which I found out, after getting his number. And I was like, I'm going to use you kind of thing. Like, I'm going to pounce around my ex and, start some drama. Because I was a petty little bitch back then. Like, I wasn't over my ex. He, at the time, and still won't, admit that he cheated, even though, that's another story. So I just kind of used him in the beginning to make my ex a little jealous. I'm sure it didn't work, but a girl's got to try, right? And so we were together for 1 month. From March, the first last week in February, to March 30th, which 2016, that happened to be Easter. I broke up with him on Easter. For reasons I'm not comfortable explaining, because that's his personal life, even though he voices it to everybody about what happened. But I just didn't want to be with somebody who continued to have a specific person in their life that had done them wrong. And so I broke things off, and I, at the time, had been living back at my father's home. Because the ex kicked me out, so I had to move back home. And I just knew, like, I knew I was pregnant. I knew. And so I bought a pregnancy test, and now it's beginning of April, and I just knew, like, my periods were very, very set. And I actually kept a calendar because of work and everything, and so I would always mark when I had it. And I just knew. So my dad was asleep, and my dad's girlfriend at the time, I can make a whole story time about that bitch. She was working or something. Yeah, she was working. And it's 5 o'clock at night. And I take a pregnancy test. Positive right away. And you read and you research, and was like, your first morning pee is going to be the perfect time. And the later in the day, the harder it could be. And so it turned out that I called my best friend. She and I have been friends for about 10 years now. Sorry, people are walking. And she had just told me in January that she was pregnant. And one of our biggest dreams was like, oh yeah, we want kids together, like, best friends having babies together. And when she found out she was pregnant, I was like, great, I'm not with somebody. Like, it's just not going to happen. Like, I'm kind of hurt, but, like, good for her, you know, kind of thing. Anyways, so I called her, and she lived about 10 minutes away. So she immediately came over and was like, I'm going to get you some a blue icy so you can drink that, and we're going to take the next one. Like, we're going to find out for sure. So she comes over, and I'm, like, just bawling. I'm a whole bunch of wreck because I don't want a baby by this man. We dated for 1 month. He was just not all there. One thing I want to note is that my son's father is legally described as autistic. He is bipolar and just a whole list of other problems. And some might say, well, you broke up with him because he's autistic, or like, what's going on? I did. He, at the time, wasn't taking his medicine, and from my understanding, still doesn't. And he literally goes from 0 to 100 in a matter of seconds. It has nothing to do with him being autistic in a sense. It's the person that I had seen for that month. And I had sex with him twice. So when I tell my story to people, I tell people, especially girls, like, don't be laying down with men that you really don't know. Like, don't spread your legs for men that you don't see a future with, you know? Like, sex is fun, and it's all, you know, it's all fun and dandy until you get a kid, you know? Like, it's one thing to have protected sex, like, good for you. And then it's another thing that you just do it just to do it, you know? So I tell women as, like, a precaution, because as mean as it may sound, I call my son's father a one-night stand because it was just 2 times, and it only takes once, you know? So that one time obviously did it. I got a kid with this man that I don't know. I don't know his family. I barely know him. So she comes over, back to my friend, and I drink this extra large blue icy from a gas station, and I take the next one. And the next one, sure enough, instantly, like, the second I'm peeing on it, it's coming out. And I'm pregnant. So I'm just freaking out. I don't know what to do. Like, my dad, like, me and my dad's relationship was just getting way better than it had ever been in my life, and I can make a story time on my father. But yeah, so I was just stressed, right? Like, as anyone should be. So I make an appointment, and at that time I was around 6 weeks, so really couldn't see much, really wasn't nothing, just a clump of cells, you know, just about to start getting a heartbeat. So then, yeah. So that proved that I was pregnant. And, yeah. So the whole purpose of this video, I guess, is just to inform girls that, like, it's okay to be sexually active. Like, I don't condone it at a young age. I mean, that's another situation in and of itself. But when you're an adult, when you're a legal adult, do you. Like, it's okay. But just be protected. Like, don't be me. My son's father cannot legally work more than 32 hours a week because he's autistic. And the reason I do that is because he has so many excuses. He uses his autism as an excuse as to why he can't do certain things, why he can't read or write. Like, he's very illiterate, but he can hold a job. He's had a job since he was 16. So he's a working adult. You know, he contributes to society. He is not at the function of, you know, like, the lower spectrum of autism, okay? And I'm not well versed in autism at all. I'm just going off one person in my life that I know who is legally diagnosed as autistic. And he literally tells people, yeah, I'm autistic, so what? I can't do this, this, and this. Like, I know people with Down syndromes and who have autism, who can read, write, who have jobs. Like, the show This Is Me, like, those women and men, like, have careers and getting married and living on their own. But you can't. Like, stop using something as an excuse and grow up and, like, live your life. Like, stop trying to make people feel sorry for you. And that's one thing that I'm not about. I'm not about giving pity to people who I feel don't deserve it. And he doesn't. He doesn't deserve my pity. He's a very negative person. And I know there's always two sides to every story. And the few friends that have met him, one of which was my friend Felicia, it's very awkward, and he doesn't have boundaries. He doesn't, I don't know. It's just, he's not the person I thought I was gonna have a kid with. And I guess to top it all off, like, I'm happy. I am so fucking happy with my life and my son. I love the fuck out of this little kid. Like, I would do anything for him. I do anything for him. And it breaks my heart that his father's not there, but I'm happy. I am 100% happy that his father is not in his life. Facts. It's just, I wouldn't want him to be in his life knowing who he is. I feel like he would try to teach my son things that are inappropriate. And I want my son to make his own opinions. I will never sit here and trash his father and, like, say super negative things about his father. What does that gain me? My son's gonna grow up and have his own opinions. Whether I'm here to make those for him or make those, assumptions for him. He is his own person. He is gonna grow up. And if my son asks me, well, where's daddy? I'm gonna be like, well, daddy's not here right now. This is why. But I'm never gonna sit here and trash my son's father in front of him, because that's only gonna hurt him. What do I gain? I have my son. I see my son every day. I get to do what I want with my son whenever I want. Nobody can tell me what to do with my son, how to do things with my son. I have full legal and physical custody of my kid. My son's father was court-ordered to see my kid at least once a week at my son's daycare. Has not done it. My son has seen his father 4 times in 2 years. What am I supposed to do? You can only text and call somebody so many times and, like, ask, like, cry and just say, like, why don't you want to be in your son's life? Like, I don't understand. What did we do to you? Like, there's only so many times that you can say and repeat yourself before you just literally throw your hands up and say, I give up. My son's birthday is coming up in December, 3 months away. And I call my son's father, and I was like, so this year, are you going to get him something for his birthday or Christmas? Last year, he was given $600 and couldn't give us one thing. Not one thing for his first birthday. My son's father has never given my son anything except for child support, if you consider that giving something. And I don't even get shit for that. Like, I literally get nothing. Like, I call his child support money gas money. Like, the child support I get fills my tank. That's how little it is. Think about that. I'm not in low-income housing. I pay my bills on my own. I don't ask for handouts. My dad does not support me, like, financially. My dad doesn't give me anything. I think the only thing my dad's actually bought my son was a wagon for his birthday. That's the only thing my dad's bought him, besides food. But, like, physical things, you know what I mean? My dad does not support me financially in any type of the way. Like, nothing. My dad supports me emotionally. When I call my dad and I'm just crying, like, my dad is there. My dad is there, okay? So my dad does not support me financially. I keep hearing people. So yeah, I guess just to end this is, ladies and gents, like, be careful who you're with, and just be careful. It's not worth it. I mean, my son is totally worth it, but I mean, the lifetime that you have to deal with is not worth the one thing that you're going to get out of it. Be safe. That's all I got to say. Bye.